this week's Out of Control. And as we always do, first of all, let's take a quick look back at what you might have missed. Last week we saw a little bit of what happens when rally cars get angry, as they took it in turns to attack cameramen all around the world. This week there's a little bit more of the same, but not quite so dramatic. However, we do get to see possibly the biggest rallycross accident ever, at least in terms of the number of rolls that the car has. And in Finland, we find out just how quick a quick roll can be. And it's to Finland we go first, for one of the most unusual sections that we've seen so far on Out of Control. There's none of the violence that we've seen on some of the earlier shows, but things just kept getting weirder and weirder. This is the piece of road that we're on this week, and as you can see, it's just a long straight into a tightening left over bridge. Tarmac, but dusty. And when the very first car spins, then you know it's going to get exciting. But this is a pretty straightforward spin, just a gentle slide backwards into the slip road. A few more come through though, with just minor mistakes. Only a few seconds lost, and a little bit of embarrassment. But as always seems to happen in Finland, the later runners seem to think that they can get round the corners quicker than the front runners. And bit by bit, the spins get a little bit more dramatic. But still nobody has made any big mistakes, and maybe the huge crowd is starting to think that they've walked all the way out here for nothing. Then one car just clips the edge of the bridge, but not much damage is done to either. Then a bit of a scare for the spectators as the next crew make an exit stage right, but still more dust and damage. Some people just like to be different, don't they? Now that's pretty close to the edge, and they need a little bit of help from the pull and tug brigade. But just when it all looks as if it might turn out a little bit dull, this happens. Which was all a bit strange, because he didn't seem to be going quickly enough. Let's hope that they don't undo their safety belts, or they'll be out through the windscreen. No, they're both okay. but probably quite surprised at finding themselves pointing straight down. With that car out of the way, the crowd starts to settle down again to some more harmless spins. And then this happens. And with no bridge to even cushion the impact, the car disappears into the river below. Fortunately, the right way up. Needless to say, the crowd finds all this very amusing, but they don't seem to be in a rush to help the crew out for some reason. A warm round of applause. Is that because they're both uninjured, or because of the entertainment that they've provided? Now the marshals put some tape up to stop any other cars from going off there. And the next car along gives the bridge a healthy whack. But the one after that gives it a real side swipe. The poor bridge is starting to look a bit second-hand now. Blimey, the tape worked. That poor bridge. This car looks well stuck. And pretty well damaged, to be honest. But once again the spectators clear up the mess and it's soon out of the way. Ready for the next crew to make a mess of things. And the crowd goes wild. Amazingly, they get him out of there and on his way as well. It's in the trees. Well, at least she's got a smile on her face. And then... that was a triple Lutz with full tuck, perfectly executed, with hardly a splash as they entered the water. I'll bet the crowd never expected to see a diving competition when they came to see this rally, but they seem highly amused by the whole thing. And these aren't the sort of shots that you usually see on a rally programme, are they?
Well, that was madness itself, wasn't it? So let's come back to England now, where generally things aren't quite so manic.
Of course, as we know, watching rallying isn't all about seeing people driving cars. There is simply more pleasure in watching rally cars being driven quickly and competently over a variety of different stages and surfaces than there is in watching Michael Schumacher drive to yet another Grand Prix victory. Take this selection of shots of Armin Schwartz filmed in 1996 when he came over to the Isle of Man and totally dominated the event. It was one of the most awe-inspiring pieces of driving that many have ever witnessed. Some, though, don't always get it right. who's the clown in the escort who thinks he knows what he's doing.
Thanks for watching so far. Now it's time for a short break. Welcome back. And first of all, here's the answer to the question I asked you just before the break.
The clown in the escort was me, of course, learning left foot braking in 1993.
Should his hands cross over so much?
And this is me learning how to drive on ice the following year. So you see, I do know what I'm talking about when I'm commenting on other people's ability to drive, because I bow to no man in my ability to drive just as badly myself. Of course, class drivers look quick all the time and can even make front-wheel drive cars look exciting on tarmac, and that takes some doing. Drivers like Julian Reynolds, Jack Armstrong and Yusufu Callisto would look quick and spectacular even if they were driving a supermarket trolley around Tesco's car park. There are some others who can get close to matching them though. Rallying at night is a different proposition, and you've got to have your wits about you. Pace notes help a lot, of course, but it's still really easy to make mistakes when you can't quite see where you're going. In rallycross though, it doesn't matter how well you can see, because life can get difficult when someone wants the same piece of track as you do. This is Brands Hatch, and it's all going to go a bit pear-shaped for Jos Sturgens.
The old 10-valve Audi's, he makes a good start, but oh, look at this! The Mondeo of Jos Sturgens has been touched by the leader, and Sturgens goes into a multiple roll. Oh, I say that is one of the worst rolls I've ever seen in rallycross.
It's incredible to see the Audi so quick off the line, but then the power of Sturgens' Mondeo sees him shoot past until he just takes off like a rocket with no stabilisers fitted, somersaulting over and over and over and over and over and over and out. I don't know about you, but I counted 6.5 rolls there, which must qualify for some sort of record.
Anyone rushes off, I just want to say that we've seen him moving and he is okay after. That was dreadful.
It was indeed, Peter. They're pulling about 100.
Now you would expect some sort of injury here, it has to be said. But amazingly no. As we've seen before, these rallycross drivers are made of strong stuff, and Sturgens emerges completely unscathed and lollops his way back to the paddock, acknowledging the cheers and applause of a relieved crowd. He almost looks embarrassed about it, doesn't he? It really is a madly spectacular sport, isn't it? Let's just take a quick look at some very brief highlights from a European race.
We've ride with Gunter Svan as they come down. The two Toyotas really ganging up on the second of the Mitsubishi and trying to force his way through on the inside. There was indeed Carlson. Gunter Svan has gone wide. Gunter Svan's gone off and hit the bank. He rejoins, looking to spool down and collected as ever, but he has lost a lot of ground. So we go back to the lead, and it is still Opland leading this one. Carlson is now second. Wilfredson is in third. Race flying high there ahead of Solstrom Kittleson, and there is Gunter Svan in last position. Of course, Gunter Svan is...
Tiffany Dell tried his hand at it a couple of times as well, but found it even tougher than trying to race against Nigel Mansell in a touring car race. What do you think, Virtual?
Well, I think he's as good as that as he is at commentating, which is next to bloody useless if you want my opinion.
No, we don't.
Well, you asked.
And let's go on board for a few minutes of the most incredible rallycross racing.
1997 in Europe. And despite the supposedly loss of brake horsepower from Martin's car, you can see that he is really warming up the back of the Peugeot now, and Will getting very, very much out of line there in the North Bend hairpin. And is he going to lose the speed to Martin Stanker? Martin momentarily going out of our picture, but now coming back into it again. But still Will Gollop holding him at bay, and you can surely see a very apt demonstration here of the fact that despite the new regulations which were designed to slowly suit the cars in Europe, it's not having a lot of effect, and the brilliant driver come engineer Martin Stanker seems to have got round it all, and he's trying to get round Will Gollop as well now if he possibly can, but Will having none of it. But by heavens, is he having to work hard here to keep Martin at bay.
I dare say that if James Allen and Martin Brundle saw something as exciting as that in a Formula One race, James Allen would have a fit.
Well, that was quite fantastic, wasn't it? I wonder what Formula One would be like if ever it got action like that. And now we're back to Finland.
Well, this is a fairly simple right-hander, just a sort of simple, straightforward corner that the Finns seem to specialise in making a mess of. I did say right-hander. Now you just know that he's going too quickly, don't you? But not much time lost here, and possibly pretty close to matching Marcus Dodd's efforts earlier in the series. It must be a nightmare being a co-driver sitting next to some of these drivers, and I don't care what Nicky Grist says, the co-driver does not control the speed of the car. It's the nut holding the steering wheel that does that, and here's a few more loose nuts. Let's see how three members of the same team get on. Identical cars, identical lines, identical mistake, identical bad driving. Unbelievable, really. Maybe they were using the same pace notes. Fast left, into fast right, into field.
Pysy sen sisällä vaan. Ei auto. Niin ja matkustaa.
That was over a minute lost, which was probably about 30 seconds more than they needed to lose. Now the driver just wants to get going again, even though the co-driver is still trying to fasten the bonnet pins. This crew is over and ready to go within 5 seconds. But wait, there's a spectator who wants them to take the windscreen rubber with them. Forget the damage to the car, ignore the broken windscreen, just don't forget the rubber.
Funny that. I used to have a girlfriend who would always say the same thing.
And finally, you do get the idea that they might be upside down for some time. But eventually they're back on their wheels, and somewhat reluctantly, on their way again.
They're all mad, you know. Now it's time for this week's Top 10.
right here as he gets him forcing his way through. Oh, and a big coming together there. Oh, and 2 or 3 cars really. Mondale of Jos Sturkens has been touched by the leader, and Sturkens goes into a multiple roll.
Well, thanks for watching this week's show. Please join us again next week.